Anyway, they would take these pelts and take them to Olney, and they'd take them to Seymour, and they'd take them to Wichita Falls sometimes and sell them sell them in the dead of winter, because it's a good time to have pelts and stretch them. In the summertime, you know, the pelts, they're not so good, and besides all that, they get rotten quick. They don't dry out like they do in the fall. Also, they would, jackrabbits, they would kill rabbits in the fall, or when it started freezing, then hang them on the back porch. And we ate rabbit. Every time they see a good one, he'd shoot him with a 22, bring him, hang him on the back porch. Of course, they'd gut him out and everything, hang him up there. We'd eat a rabbit once in a while. A lot of people eat rabbits in those days. Today, they wouldn't do that today. They're not hungry enough. See, after the winter comes the spring, of course. And in the spring, we would start planting everything. This cane that you're talking about, sugar cane and stuff, they planted then. They planted corn, they planted maize. Actually was used for crushed to feed to the cattle. They had an area out in the barn, a big old room kind of built inside the barn, and they would just come up there with a sack of grain and pour it down in there. So they had this thing full. And the teenage kids loved it, because they go out there in the barn, you know, playing in the barns. You get in that seed and everything, you know, and you could lay down the seed and all that stuff. I remember that. I was a little small, but I can remember. Then we had a loft upstairs where we put hay. They would take the hay and bring it up in a wagon, and then pass it up into this loft, they called it, part of the barn. They would store hay for winter, and they put it inside. Some of it they put outside, but a lot of it they put it inside, and that was for the winter. Things get tough, they feed out of the stock up in the second story. It was kind of easy. As I grew along, it was better. I liked it better. What we'd do is they'd cut the strings on it, and then we'd kick it out of the loft out on the ground, and here come the cows. You didn't have to put up the darn bull, or maybe sometime 2 bulls, and they were roan durms. They were a meat cow too, as well as a milk cow. Later on they called them different. They were a crossbreed, but they were Durham. Most of them were kind of brownish, but they had speckles on the stomach and everything, had speckles. And the Durham was a popular meat and milk cow at that time. We had some, naturally, but the big ranch next door to us was the Portwood Ranch. They had all beef cattle. They were a big ranch. They had a hill area, plus they had had fenced off part of the river. They bought property right up to the river. They had a lot of water.
What river was that?
Brazos. These little creeks like Bitter Creek and Spring Creek and all those poured into that and kept it in pretty good shape. Now it would get dry sometime. We'd go fishing, because if it got dry, there would be holes as big as this room or big as this house. The deeper parts of the river they'd still hang on as long as they could, and you could catch fish easy. So they'd go fishing a lot, and we only had this guy started coming out of Seymour. One come out of Seymour, one out of Albany, depending on where you were, and they would sell ice. They'd bring us out ice, and we'd buy ice. I'll put a lot of different stuff with them they had, but not a refrigerator. They had a building built that was pretty good, and they put their ice in there. Those that had the money to do it, I guess. So we'd buy ice from these guys that come out and deliver it. Every week they come through. You buy 25-pound blocks. It's easy to handle. But we didn't have a refrigerator, no. Mama would take and build a little platform outside the kitchen window, put up a little box on the top that would take toe sacks, you know what they are? And she'd put that around it, and she could wet them. When the breeze would come, it would keep it fairly cold.
Well, explain the toe sacks. A lot of people don't know what those are.
They'd buy potatoes in those tow sacks, and they were burlap bags. They bought grain in those burlap bags, and we'd save them and put them around the platform she built, and she'd build a kind of like a little room. Put these on the outside and keep them wet. Hey, it keep your milk pretty clean, cool for a couple of days. So that was our refrigerator. No such thing as refrigerators. I don't think anybody had any.
I was always told the rich families had the ice boxes. You know, they'd have the box with the metal inside.
Yeah.
And you'd set the ice cubes, those big blocks of ice in there.
25 pounds, yeah.
Yeah, and
12 pounds and 25.
Kids today are used to going to the Minute Market and grabbing a bag of ice and going and putting it in their refrigerator. Kids today don't realize how different
Lucky they are.
Yeah.
Right now. I don't think we had good refrigeration probably until 1931 or something like that, 38, 39. And of course you're right, the people with the big houses and the big money, they got the first. That's true. We didn't have anything with fans in them yet. Anything like that. Of course in the city they had some, because they had electricity. We didn't have electricity out in the country. We used lamps, coal oil lamps. And they had, and also the fireplace served as a, in the wintertime was keep you warm, but also in the summer, at night, if you needed a fire, you'd turn on the light at the fireplace. They just depend on what you want. They had a fireplace, and they would have an old cook stove with the round things on top that you reach and pick them off the, and put your sticks in there and heat up the wood stoves, they call them. That's what they were. They had not yet strung electricity out through the country. They had ways of using that wood stoves, that's what they were. Of course now, we're talking about people living out in the country, 12 to 20 miles out of the country. Some live close in, 6 miles, something like that. People with the big ranches and the big houses and all that stuff, they had a little better than we did. I knew some kids and I'd go visit them and they'd come visit me, visit us. This was later though. The state hunter, my Uncle Coley, his name was Carl Bost. And he was he did some farming, but he was a state hunter that when the big cats started coming in and killing calves and stuff like that, they'd come out of the mountains, come down and kill the calves. He had keep about 4 to 6 hounds, and he had one named Abe, and old Abe was, if he hit a trail, I guarantee there was no guesswork. If he cut loose, started barking, they knew they had the trail going. It turned loose, one other dog that would go with him, and they'd take after these big cats. Then they'd turn all of them loose and run them up a tree. I'm talking about mountain lions. Out in the woods, we had mountain lions. If they got to be too plentiful or too killing, start killing little calves, well, I tell you, folks got pretty preserved. And we had the state hunter, and he was one, Carl, an old pickup built where he could put his dogs in the back, and he would drive out to where the area was and let his lead dog, which is Abe, and he'd find the trail. The next thing you know, here and turn loose another one, there'd be 2, then it'd be 3. And when they would catch them and run them up a tree, then he'd go up there and shoot them, drop them out. And if it was a fox, they do that, and the wolf is on the ground. Now wolves don't climb trees, but they run. These hound dogs that they had, coon dogs, they had coon dogs. Old Abe was a coon dog. And the coon skin was worth $5. A good coon skin, $3 to $5. Depending what they were, what the value. And these platforms that I told you about in these 2 towns, part of that was a section where they bought pelts. They bought it and shipped them out to back east so that they could make coats and stuff like that. That's what all of those animals that I'm going to mention that they would sell to these buyers, wholesale buyers, that always have a big platform that you put your stuff on, and they look at it and they give so much and they pay cash. These buyers of pelts and things like that had the platform. You pull up there and put your stuff on the platform, and go inside, and they would look what you got, and they price it, and they give you your cash, and buy them. Ship them back east. That's how they got all those coats and stuff that they wore. Coonskin coats and that we don't see anymore, because now they, no, you can't kill animals for their pelt like that. However, if you buy them from China, you can still get them. The mountainous countries of backcountry of China and back in there behind Japan. Japan's not big enough to have any. Back in those deserts, the other side of the deserts are mountains. And I don't mean just motel, I mean mountains. And go in there and you'll have to find anything you want. Now, we're not allowed to, it's not proper to buy animals and turn them into coats anymore. They had the two sorrels, and that's the two that he rode into the next farm, the aunt, and rode in there and borrowed her car and drove it to Seymour. They didn't quite go to Seymour. They went to Posto. They had post to go straight up, and they used it for post. They had a little grocery store there, and he rode those two animals by himself that had no saddles. He didn't like saddles anyway. If you couldn't ride bareback, you couldn't ride it. So, and it's faster, you don't saddle up, so you just get on that horse and head on out sometimes. So he did it. For that time, he just put bridles on those two mares and went down the road, and he'd switch out on them. Never stopped, just kept right on going. And switched from horse to horse. Then when he got to, just before he got to Post Oak over there, there was a grocery store, and he called from the grocery store and said, call the doctor. And the doctor told him, said, well, Frank, how long has she been in labor? And he said, well, not very long. He said, is her sister still there? Oh yeah, living in the little ranch next to us here. That's Aunt Grace. Mama's name was Jewel, and Grace was her sister. He said, well, she's got two kids. She's already been through it a couple of times. She can help you a lot. I can't get out there this evening. He said, but I'll be there, Frank. I'll come out this evening. As soon as I close up, I'll come out. He came out in his new car.
The doctor?
Yeah, new Chevrolet. He come out there and come in, and Mama had coffee ready and everything, probably some cookies and whatever she cooked that day. Then they decided they'd play some dominoes. Next thing you know, here comes Uncle Willard. Willard was my mother's brother, who worked for the ranch next door to us, the big ranch. Yes, it was, Portwood Ranch, is who he worked for. He just happened to come over. And so then Elza showed up, so he got 4 people. He could play 42. That's what they wanted. The men played 42, and he'd look in on Jewel every once in a while, and Grace would do the rest and report to him. So they played until 1 o'clock in the morning. Little Harmon Hand arrived at 1 o'clock in the morning.
What a lot of people don't realize is back then, you didn't have a baby in a hospital most of the time.
No, we have them at home.
And that's what the big thing was to do, was sit around and play dominoes and wait for the baby.
42 was a big one,
Yeah.
big deal. They loved to play 42. It was a good game. So they played 42 until I arrived, and she'd already chose the name if it's a boy, so she called me Harmon. The reason why she called me Harmon, because she knew Darman and Harmon, which is a friend of theirs boys. I don't know, he went to the city and went to work, I don't know. Later on I knew about him. He spelled it H-A-R-M-O-N-D, but mine is H-A-R-M-O-N. Harmon Hand. Frank Harmon Hand, Jr. My name. Frank Jr. I call him this thing. Because Dad was Frank, see? Dad is 5'6". He wasn't very tall. Tough little rascal, but he's 5'6". He had arms like Arm Hammer. You seen that where they showed the Arm and Hammer? Believe me, that's the way he was built. Ooh.
Well, that's because he worked his
Yes,
whole
sir.
life. They don't make them like that anymore.
And they really most of them liked Frank anyway, but nobody messed with him, I'll tell you that. He had a left and knock you out. And And Frank was happy. He didn't, he tried to keep them from fighting. We didn't have much fighting in those days. Had a lot of visitation and who's working and what ranch is doing good and what you could do here and there and who could, when they're getting hired again and whatever. Mostly guys got together to try to figure out where the work was second. When they get their work done, then they've got to still get some money somehow. So they work for the bigger places.
Well, there's one more thing you gotta tell me about.
What's that?
When the baby was born,
Yeah.
what did he look like?
Oh, had reddish hair, a little bit of fuzz, reddish fuzz. Just looked like a little red-headed baby, that's all. And right down the road there at my aunt's, a blonde-headed boy already, and she had an older boy who was named EJ, and he had bright red hair, it was curly. And then, but Harley, the other one that was after him, had white hair. I always had blonde hair.
Oh, wow.
And EJ was, boy, high-tempered son of a gun. He was okay, but don't get him mad. he might even cry, but he beat the hell out of him. It made him mad to get that way, but if you punched him or something, he'd beat the hell out of you. Bright red hair.
Well, it seems like all the redheads have a little temper.
Yeah. I wonder if that's true. Anyway, we lived, just about a half a mile apart, and we had the property in between us too. We did part of it. We had a fence in the center. We raised part of it, and they raised part. And the two brothers worked together all the time anyway. It wasn't. They weren't against each other. Families were trying to help each other. Families stuck together then because there wasn't much money in the 30s. We were in a depression, and FDR had to come along and started traveling the country. He'd get to town, and then whoever was with him would let him drive by himself. See, we didn't know that he had bad legs and could hardly walk. He stayed in the car.
President Roosevelt, Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
FDR, yes sir. But he was believed in. I mean, everybody believed in him, that he was helping the farmers and helping people work. His number one thing was to put everybody to work, and he did. He was a Democrat, but he put them to work. That's where the Democrat really made their mark.
When the Democrats were real and they were out for the real.
They were real for the poor people, a worker. So that there's no doubt about that. They weren't out trying to chisel anybody. They're just trying to get work. And of course, the government had more work than anybody else. And he started, there's our president right now is kind of patterned like him. The Roosevelts had a little money, and they went around and started businesses and stuff like that and helped out where they could. Of course, he had a brother before him that was a Roosevelt that was pretty good too. That's where he's jumping way ahead.
Thank you so much for watching Who's Red. Please hit the like button, subscribe, and be sure to click on the notification bell so you can be the first to know when Who's Red drops a new video.